Good morning, everybody, or afternoon for Jake here out in the UK. So we're just gonna get this stream started. It looks like we've already got some viewers, which is super cool to see. At the moment, we only got one question in from everybody, which is partially my fault because I dropped that link in chat for the questions pretty late. We had some scheduling conflicts between Jake and I, but we're up and running right now. So, sounds like Jake is going to take his Grey Knights to 2 tournaments here in the next few weeks. So why don't you just jump in to that, Jake? Tell us a little bit about those upcoming tourneys.
Yeah, so obviously I'm taking them to 2 events. So first one, which is the Factorium GT for September, which is our Vanguard Tactics, where our studio is based. It's one of our sponsors, Factorium. If you're in the UK, there are still tickets available for it. So just head over to the Factorium on Facebook to get all the links for that. As I said, 2 days, 5 games, amazing terrain, and so far haven't had any complaints. So that's really good. So I'm hoping to try my list for the next tournament, which is the LGT, the London Grand Tournament. For everybody who may know of that, quite a big major in the UK, one of the biggest tournaments, I think, if not the biggest in the UK for the last sort of few years. Obviously, COVID last year, obviously there wasn't any. But super excited for that. There's going to be so many people going to that, and I'm hoping to have a really good showing with the old Grey Knights. So fingers crossed.
Have you been doing any research so far on like tournaments that are happening this weekend and where Grey Knights are placing right now? I gotta admit, I was like off grid yesterday. I did a whole day whitewater rafting trip, so it's not like I was gonna be on my phone during that. But are like maybe chat knows actually where some Grey Knights are placing right now. I know it's still Sunday, so if there is our GTs and stuff, they're still starting day 2, but it would be interesting because I think they won a 16-man last week or the week before, and then they just won another like small event, another RTT, I think, the week prior. So, and then you came in 5th at that very difficult Factorum GT. I know those are some world class A class players. So,
I think the fight for the top spot was between like the top 5 at that event. Obviously myself, Ben, who's a very experienced player, Wayne, who was using the Richard Siegler Adeptus Mechanicus Metallica list, so not an easy matchup there. And then obviously Stephen Box, who came in 2nd, my co-host. Well, I'm his co-host, I guess, but while I'm here, he can be my co-host on Vanguard Tactics. Obviously, my one loss as well I took at that event, and then Ben Jones, who is another VT coach, took the whole event with Drakari. So the top 5 being Grey Knights, I think it was Successor Space Wolves, I think Ben was using, the other Ben, and then Metallica, Admech, Bloody Rose, Sisters of Battle, and then Drakari. So yeah, quite a star-studded lineup of armies as well.
Those are some top tables, some top games. So it looks like DBZ here says that at the Summer WA 2, Matthew Dugan is currently in 3rd place with Grey Knights. So that's some cool news there. He's also asking, we'll just get into questions as they come. They have 2 units of 9 interceptors currently built with halbards. They're asking, are they safe to go with one more unit of 9 with falchions, or should they go with more halbards? So over the last few days, I just finished building 20 interceptors, and last night, late night, I finished priming them and basing them because I have a game against Iron Warriors this afternoon, actually. And I put swords on them, which I felt a little bit like I was a traitor to myself, because 90% of my army has halbards, because I just love that iconic look. But I went with what seemed like the meta choice, which is the swords. I have another 10-man all with falchions still from when I built them a year ago. So I don't know, PZ. I think during our conversation with Jake last time, we talked a bit about this, but Jake, do you want to jump into?
Yeah, so obviously I think halbards are really good. Obviously, you know, you get that +2 strength, -2, 2 damage versus so things like orc boys. But if I'm honest, like looking at the orc codex, and you know, like I don't think you're going to see as many boys that you need to worry about, because I'm not going to lie, like for everyone you do a wound to, it's probably going to die anyway. So you know, like so having the strength 5, like I really like the swords mainly because the -3 is really really good for things that there's a lot of stuff in the game that's ignoring AP 1 and 2 at the moment. Just one that comes to mind, which is the big bad, is the low guy Adeptus Mechanicus Holy Order trait. So that's super annoying, and then you've got other abilities as well that do the same thing. So having it as -2, so having halbards at -2 just means yes, you're wounding these things on, you know, mechanicum stuff on 2s, whereas, you know, orcs you're wounding on 3s. But with the mechanicum, they're going to ignore that AP minus, so obviously they'll be on their 4-up save, which, you know, means that more of them could potentially live. Whereas at least if you're sacrificing that, you know, -1 essentially to wound, so putting you on 4s to wound versus boys and 3s to wound versus these admech, at least for every one you're doing, you're pretty much going to kill him. And if you are worried about anything like that, obviously you have abilities for reroll 1s to wound from your other captains. If you take Prescient Brethren for 1 CP, you can do the same thing pretty much. Hammer Hand letting you reroll all wounds for things like your strikes and your dread knights. So yeah, so there's ways around it, but I think personally, just my view, like we spoke about last time, staying away from the Falchions, I think in my personal opinion, I know with at the moment with Word of Power, all these other things as well, they seem really really good.
Rapiers.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah, rapiers, banner, you know, within the Word of Power, tidal convergence, obviously. But I think that, not gonna lie, I don't see it staying around for as long as people may hope for. So who knows? Maybe in an FAQ it will get changed to either, you know, you don't do the double mortal wounds, or there'll be a limit, or you know, all these other things that could happen. But yeah, I just think stay away from those falchions, my friend. Go with halbards, go with swords. Honestly, it's up to you on that one, but I'd just stay away from those falchions just for now, until at least we know what's happening with the whole, you know, mortal wound fiasco.
Yeah. It's an excellent point. I have falchions on there just because when I started playing, I put them on there because I thought they looked amazing. And they do. Yeah. It's just like, yeah, I don't think they're a competitive choice. I love the halberds, the whole strength 6, like you said, easier to wound things. J. Brian Anderson says, why are you the most handsome VT member? Jake, why are you the most handsome VT member?
Just good genetics, Brian. No, but Brian Anderson's an absolute hero. Normally in our VT streams as well. Obviously, Steve's very good friends with him. I like to think we're very good friends, Brian, as well. So yeah, got my back here on the whole handsome front. Don't worry, I'm rivaling Steve at the moment. Once I get my haircut sorted and all that, we'll be good to go again. Thank you, Brian.
You will have to up your flex game though if you want to chill
yeah,
with him on stream.
Yeah, I'll give it a go. Luckily, as we were talking about off camera, this week's game is myself with the Grey Knights. So again, if you want to come see that tournament list that I took 5th place with, that'll be over on Vanguard Tactics this coming Tuesday versus Aaron Kennedy, one of our VT coaches, with the new Orc Codex. So a nice little preview for anybody there.
That's going to be
not too fussed about the old Orcs. You can come and see me Grey Knights, but obviously, I think it's going to be an awesome game anyway. So luckily, I don't have to contend with Steve on at least on the same screen as me at least. So you don't have to flex as much.
So not to fish for too much information, is that going to be an orc heavy, like orc vehicle heavy list, or is that going to be a like an infantry heavy list? Or
I have seen his list. It's a bit of mix. It's a bit of mix. I won't spoil
okay,
too much because obviously it's quite an exciting. It's quite an interesting one. It does show off a lot of the new Orc Codex. But I'm hoping to be able to sort of show what the Grey Knight list that I took to that event can do. I would have been taking my modified list, but sadly I haven't had the opportunity this week to be able to make the relevant changes, i.e. painting a bunch more Inceptors. So sadly I will just be using the list I got the 5th place with, not the modified version, which as obviously we spoke about on that video, you can go check that out obviously on the channel. It means that obviously I'm dropping 5 of the Grey Knight Strike Marines and the banner for some more Inceptors, and obviously we go through about it why in your video, don't we?
yeah, we do. We're also going to get into that a whole lot, I think, with these discussion of my lists here. I am, man, the Interceptors in 8th, like, I was so jazzed for those units. They were probably my favorite individual unit type out of the whole codex, but in 8th with 1 wound, they were absolute trash. And now they are so good. So good. So
it's funny how 1 wound can make all the difference.
I mean, yeah, it's also the stratagem support. You know, every single Grey Knight now, ignoring Falchions, has effectively a mastercrafted weapon now, 2 damage. I mean, it's nuts.
2 damage is a massive deal in the game, especially as I said, you know, like we alluded to obviously when talking about the discussion. It's why, you know, and the ability obviously with the powers to make them 3 damage potentially, like it's so good not to at least have that in the pocket. Like just to be able to go, oh, for example, if we're keeping on topic with the new Orc Codex, Mega Knobs, you know, they're 3 wounds each. You know, those vehicles as well, you know, they're going to be quite annoying to kill if you've only got 2 damage weapons. I think they're all mostly like 9 wounds, so like it means instead of having to do 10 or 5 wounds to a vehicle with not empiric amplification, all you have to do is 3. So
yeah,
big difference there.
Yeah, empiric amplification definitely helps, but I mean, so do those mortal wounds from Tide of Convergence. So you're just slapping those on there. Right, like
there's lots and lots legit. Of 6s and lots of wounds.
Yeah, I mean, you can trust the probability of at least a couple mortal wounds from a 5-man coming through. And then if you really want, you can always fish for them, I guess. With hammer hand from a strike squad, obviously not from interceptors, but. So we mentioned Prescient Brethren just a moment ago, and there was a question brought up in our video, actually, our last interview, and they were asking, so the Foresight Stratagem says when a Prescient Brethren Psyker unit from your army fights or shoots, until the end of the phase, each time a model in that unit makes an attack, reroll a hit roll of 1 or reroll a wound roll of 1. So I know everybody was assuming that means all wound rolls of 1 and all hit rolls of 1. So this is effectively giving everybody a Grandmaster and Brother Captain aura in that unit. Is that the way you read that too? Because to me, it's like you could take it as each unit or each model in that unit can reroll a hit roll of 1 and a wound roll of 1.
So
I think that means all 1s. Yeah.
Yeah. So how I interpret it is, so obviously, like you said, so this is a model in that unit that makes an attack and reroll a hit roll of 1 and wound roll of 1. So I think it's just about looking. at other wordings. So, for
Right.
example, if we look at the Dread Knight Grandmaster, it says, while friendly Brotherhood core unit is within 6 inches of this model, each time a model in that unit makes an attack roll, reroll a hit roll of 1.
Okay.
So
So
obviously,
okay.
if we use that same terminology in the sense of this stratagem, then obviously it would mean that if it says it on the Grandmaster and it's saying a hit roll of 1, then and we know that the Grandmaster's intention is that he lets all the unit reroll their ones, then that means that the stratagem will allow that to do the same thing. If it said, for example, this model may only reroll 1 hit roll of 1 and 1 wound roll of 1,
Right.
then obviously the strat's a bit trash. But
It's just right, and that's why I was like, there's no way I like one viewer and I have caught this, right? Like everybody else seems very stoked about this stratagem, and I'm like, it doesn't read all that well. As a newer player, this is a thing that I'm having a lot of struggle with Games Workshop in general. Is their wording can be so nebulous sometimes. It's not set in stone. It's not legalese. So sometimes you're like, well, the way the English language works, because it's a hodgepodge of every other damn language on the planet, is that you can end up in these word games like that one where it's a hit roll of 1. But imagine how awful that would be to roll. Like you have a 10-man, they charge, right? You give them this stratagem. Now you have to roll for each model, and then only re-roll 1 of their wound rolls and 1 of their hit rolls. Like that just sounds awful.
No, it's very much the case of there's a few things with that. So first thing is the English language is a vast thing, and we are very blessed that a lot of words mean the exact same thing. They can be taken in a bunch of different contexts. So again, how I look at these sort of things is you have to look at the consistency of wording. So, for example, if we know that Grandmaster Dread Knights or Grandmasters allow you to reroll the whole unit can reroll 1s to hit, and then you look at their wording and it says a hit roll of 1, and then you go to that stratagem and you go,
Right.
okay, well, this has the exact same wording as this, so it means this. If we take something like, I don't know, again, keeping it topical, I guess. Death Skulls for Orcs, Master Artisans for Craft Worlds, or Marines, whatever the one is.
Whatever the one for Salamanders is. I know where you're going.
So, yeah, their wording is you may re-roll a single hit roll. So it says a single. So one dice. So you re-roll the 1 dice. Whereas this one, so anybody who is unsure on that, then it definitely, the intention of it is that you can reroll 1s to hit and 1s to wound, making the stratagem really, really good.
Yeah, otherwise it would be not good. Because the way that the Brotherhood seem to be playing out is, we get a stratagem, a psychic power, and a warlord trait. And generally speaking, 2 out of the 3 of those are good for every Brotherhood. And then one of those 3 is lackluster at best.
I think, speaking on that, I think the Prescient Brethren, I honestly don't know. Like, I think the Prescient Brethren, I think, is the only army that doesn't have. I think they're all good. I think the warlord trait's great. I think the spell's great, and I think the strat's great.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't had a chance to play it yet. I was tempted for the stream to swap it out to Prescient Brethren to see how it goes, but for going live on camera, I don't feel that comfortable to be able to just quickly swap something that I was using quite integrally in my army. But hey, we'll have to see. As I said, obviously I've got a few practice games coming up in the form of these events that I mentioned as well. So obviously the Factorium GT for September, which they normally do them at the end of the month, but they've pushed it to a week before the LGT, so then you can go and practice all your lists and stuff. Which is, I know what I'm doing because I don't have a lot of time to play other than that.
Yeah, man. I feel you. Oh, I want to play so much more, and it's just like I got this thing called life, and it just keeps slowing me down.
Between doing my regular mundane job and obviously VT, and then other commitments I have outside of work, I don't get. It's funny that not many people know that I actually like the only times I used to play like ages ago were just on the streams.
Wow,
So
really?
whenever, yeah,
Those
so
are your
I've never
practice
ever
games?
get. Yeah, so when I'd go to events and be like, "Oh yeah, I've done all right here with like only 2 games with with it beforehand," I was quite happy. So now I've made a point of like Sundays are my day that I can do hobby related things. Obviously, that's why we're here chatting with you. Obviously events and stuff as well. So yeah, so it means that I get some time to be able to just dedicate to like my lists and my hobby side of things. So
Which I appreciate you taking the time, by the way, both now and our previous interview. These videos obviously would never be made without my awesome guests who give up their own free time to just talk to another nerd, so that it can be watched by other nerds. So,
but yeah, it's all about the community helping each other.
for sure.
I think we're very blessed to have such a great community
Yeah.
among us in this hobby.
Absolutely. Like, I've heard some pretty.
So,
Oh, we're having a little video audio glitch here.
oh,
Are you back?
hello.
Hello. So it looks like
Can you hear
your video is frozen, but that happened a few times in our interview as well, and it'll pop back on soon. So let's
Probably my
and there you go.
internet. So
And now you're good. So let's
It's probably my internet. So
yeah, no problem, man. It is the internet. Like, I think everybody is cool with it. So let's get right into, speaking of lists and Prescient Brethren and everything, let's get into these dorky lists that I've put together here. So I'm going to ask chat real quick, by the way, just for my own edification. Is the audio good? Everything's coming through all right? I've messed with the audio stuff for far too long now, but I am curious. So this list, this is one of the first ones that I made when the codex dropped. So I know that there's been a lot of theory crafting, there's been a lot of events, and there's been a lot of new data. So this list is probably going to feel a little stale. I just want to make that clear going into it. But so all of these lists are 2,000 points. I'm not, just so that's out of the way. We have Grandmaster Name, Nemesis, Dread Knight with all of the fixings, a Chaplain with Words of Power. We got Drago with Ghostly Bonds, Gate of Infinity and Sanctuary. We got some Strike Squads here. All of these have halbards. I gave these guys incinerators too, because I thought that was an interesting don't charge me kind of tech pick. And here's what the point of this list was, is folks were really down on paladins. And I mean, we are down on them versus, like, they're not in a great place, I don't think, competitively. They're awesome units still. But for their point cost, you know, right now I think we have a lot more efficient choices. But I think that there might be some play with a paladin brick of like 5 men that you kind of send up one side of the board, buff the absolute crap out of them, stick them in some terrain, Tide of Shadows, and then you basically just are effectively immovable. Because you're going to have... So with Tide of Shadows in terrain, you're going to be -1 to hit. You're going to... With Armored Resilience, you're going to be at a 0 up save. So, like, AP4 is still only going to plop you down to 4 up, right? So you're just going to be, like, it's really hard to move. Unfortunately, there are very efficient weapons out there right now, looking at you, Dark Lances, that will straight up pop Terminators and Paladins with one shot anyway. But that was kind of the idea here. And now, after actually saying all that out loud, I realize that that warding stave is pretty redundant. Because I thought, oh, well, if we're going to make him as tanky as possible, let's give him that 4 up invul versus shooting. But I know that you said this too before we started the stream. How do you feel about paladins? Like, where do you think that they exist at the moment?
I think they've got play. So I've written a list as well, and not for an event that I can't say what it is yet because it's a cool one. So hopefully when that will get shown off, then I'll be able to go into it a bit more. But I also have paladins in this list, but I have a unit of 10 paladins. Now I know you may look at me and think, "What are you doing, you absolute mentalist?" But there's a reason for it. So paladins are let's look at the downsides because it's a lot easier, yeah, to have a look at that. So they're not brotherhood, so they don't get any of the brotherhood bonuses.
Right.
So because of that, they don't get the brother captain rerolls. They don't get Grand Master rerolls. They do, however, get Drago rerolls because Drago just affects Grey Knight core.
Yep.
Because they are
Drago
core,
don't care.
They can also, yeah, because they are core, they can also be affected by things such as warlord traits, the litanies, the heroism of favor, the locus of foretelling, the Overwatch one that I can never remember the name of.
Yeah.
Let me find the name.
No,
of it.
it's what I'll look it up while you
cool.
chat.
So obviously there's that, but there's a few things that you can do with them that's quite nice. So the first thing is that obviously you can give them the armored resilience, and you can give them like another power. So I think obviously you've got purifying flames on yours. I'm pretty sure they get to pick their powers.
They do, yeah. So they can pick any 2 powers from the Sanctic discipline. So I picked purifying flame because owie, and then armored resilience to make them tankier. I for this list specifically, I was gonna save Sanctuary for either the interceptors or the strike squads, depending on how things were going. I mean, the paladins are already so beefy anyway, so.
The only spell change that I've got to your one is I've got Hammer Hand and Armored Resilience. So the reason I've got a Hammer Hand is because then if they get in combat, they can just buff themselves to reroll wounds.
That's fair.
But then this is where you can be quite cool with some of the stratagems they have. So they have a 1 CP stratagem that allows them to swap one of their powers. So in this instance, you swap your smite power for Empiric, the moving shooting one. Empiric castigation or Empiric,
I got you. The interceptor power. What's now?
Because so you give them the 4. So my unit of 10 has as many side cannons as they're allowed. I think it's 4.
Same.
And they've got halbards, and they've got halbards, and they've got they don't have any warding stays just because, again, in my head I'm like, well, I can just put sanctuary on them if they really need it. And how they play is they just play like a massive bubble of guys that can move and shoot, so they can tuck their head out of cover, shoot, duck back. And then also what they can do is that if I then need them to get into the middle of the table to, let's say, for certain missions that have objectives in the middle, so like direct assault, obviously that secondary is massive in that mission, because obviously it's basically an auto 3 points if you hold the center. If I'm playing versus things such as like Space Marines with that Oath of Moment, and I need to deny them the center, then I can move this brick into the middle of the table. It can shoot, move, depending on how terrain is. But equally as well, I can give it Sanctuary, I can give it Armored Resilience, I can give it Hammer Hand, and just sort of sit there with it, put Sanctuary on it as well, and go, right, if you come into me, anyway, I'm not getting reroll wounds from any characters, but I'm giving it to myself, so that's okay. Drago can put Drago rerolls on them, so then again they have that. Obviously, it's a big points investment. Obviously, we're talking over sort of 500 points for this Terminator unit, but I think that in a weird way it has play. I don't think it's, if you ask me if it was optimal, in my personal opinion, without trying it, I'm having to say no. But I think that it's the thing I'm looking at next in the list sort of making stages to see, because I love the Paladins, I love the Terminator
I know.
models.
I have so
They
many
look
Terminator
amazing.
models, and now I'm like, oh, I'm sad because
Yeah.
they're yeah.
And then yeah, so obviously you've got all of that, and then obviously like so obviously there's other things you can do to them. So there's so many. This is where we look outside of, oh, they're not a brotherhood, so they don't get character bonuses, and then you start looking into, well, they can give themselves reroll wounds in combat. That's pretty good. They can give themselves armored resilience. That's pretty good. You can put sanctuary on them. That's pretty good. You can use heroism's favor on them. So then, if someone does want to try and sneak an objective off you, you can just make them heroically intervene. You can obviously do empiric amplification onto a unit, and they shoot all their side cannons into that, or equally they hit them in combat with halbards. You've got Drago rerolls. You've got Word of Power. So this is where we go out. Like I said, we go out of that bubble of, well, actually the only things they're losing are reroll ones to wound from certain characters.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's a great.
And that's and brotherhood strats. And that's it. So I think that they have play, but I just think that when you look at, for the points cost, when you look at 20 Inceptors are just under the cost of 10 Paladins.
Yeah,
that's when the dream starts falling off.
Yeah, exactly. I haven't made any lists recently that don't just almost max out or try to max out as many interceptors as I can bring. Like, they're so good now. We were talking before the stream started about how they weren't good, and they are so good now. I'm like so happy.
Yeah. It's a massive two wounds, and obviously if you think as well, it's also like the relative value. So for example, a strike marine is 22 points a model, a inceptor is 24. That inceptor has access to a ton more stratagems than that strike marine, and moves 12 and can ignore models for the purposes of moving. So when you look at it in that perspective, you go, okay, well, strikes are good because they can allow themselves to reroll to wounds with hammer hands, but then this unit is more likely to get into combat. It's more likely to do these things. In my list, I use my strikes very much for those purifying rituals. Those I'm going to gate this small unit of 5 over there and take that objective off of you.
Yeah.
My banner raisers, if I ever take that, so that my objective holders, which I know servitors obviously can do the same thing. Which I am looking at maybe putting a few in my list, but at the end of the day, it's if you just think like those 4 servitors, they someone sort of just runs up to them and, oh look, they're dead. Yeah. And now you're like, oh well, my army's so far up the table that I can't really go back to that objective, or equally I have to gate or use resources, or I'm having to run and take that potential, like, oh, I may not roll enough on my run, and so it's all about taking away those failure points and just going like, right, I'd much rather stick 5 strike marines here, which I know they are so much more points than the servitors, but I'm hoping that I'm willing to put that unit there for the goal I need to, if it means that it's a guaranteed thing.
I mean, counterpoint real quick. There have been some great comments and questions in chat that I'm going to get to. Usually, if your opponent is dropping in your backline, it doesn't matter if you have a 5-man strike squad there or 4 servitors, like, because Necrons or AdMech are going to bring like a huge blob of something, and they're gonna blast off. It doesn't matter which, like, 4 servitors are dead, 5 strike marines are dead, or Death Shroud Terminators pop in your backline. It's like, well, I know they don't have guns, but if they make this charge roll, there's no way 5 strike marines are gonna live through it, right? So it's like, to me, you're trading at that point anyway, and then hopefully you're like pushing so far up the board and are harassing them so much that they have to make that same choice. Like, do I put pressure on their backfield, or do I drop these units in a more advantageous position, like in the middle of the board, to protect my own backfield? And in that case, also it feels very bad if you drop in like your the Chronomancer with the orb that lets them deep strike with one other unit. Like,
Yeah, the Veil's Arnus.
yes, that. So if you Veil of Darkness 20 warriors and shoot 4 servitors, like that feels really bad. You know?
Thing, it's all about the relative stuff on it. So like again, like you had obviously said, you know, if this unit is having to pump all those resources into whether you're 4 servitors or 5 strikes, you're probably going to be dead anyway. But it's also about going, like, okay, well, if I have these 5 strikes here, you're having to I'm forcing you to put those resources into that.
That's true.
Whereas those 4 servitors, your opponent's going to go, oh, well, they're just 4 servitors, you know, a unit of mortal should kill that, or, you know, equally a unit of
Scourge
infiltrators should kill that, you know, or, you know, so you know, they'll go, oh, okay, well, 5 guys to kill that, whereas you're like, right, there's 5 strikes here, there's 10 wounds here. Obviously, they're on a 2-up save because they're in cover most likely. If obviously they're not in cover, you can use certain strats to, you know, make you harder to wound. And then you've now forced your opponent to go, right, I can't just put this small unit. I'm going to have to maybe commit, or equally, I can't do it yet because he's still got so much of his army left that if I do just port over to his corner, then there's, you know, I'm not going to have anything equally in my end. So then he's just going to trade that same way and I've actually gained nothing.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think it's very much the case of it's an interesting one, and how I use the list is, I think, just like I said, you know, they strike, sit there and do the actions. I just also like that tactical flexibility side of it to go, okay, well, if I've got 5 strikes on this objective, I can do a purifying ritual, you know, if I want to.
That's true.
It opens my secondary picks up a bit more.
Yeah, servitors can't do that. That is 100% correct.
yeah. Sadly they are not psychers, and if they were psychers, then you'd probably see 3 of them in my list, 3 units of them in my list pretty much all the time. But obviously, I still think that obviously it goes without saying they are great, you know. But I think for the list I'm going for, at the moment, like obviously I said before, I've now got 29 Inceptors in the list. If I do think that's overkill, I will probably as in definitely drop 4 Inceptors, putting them down to a unit of 5, and then taking maybe 2 to 3 units of services to fill the place. So just so I can, again, also open up my secondary picks even more. But I just think the Inceptors for potentially the Orcs and stuff, like obviously there's also a lot of indirect shooting as well. And you know, those squig buggies for Orcs are well good. So you know, just like they definitely kill 4 servitors, whereas at least in my head, you know, the squig buggies have a bit more of a hard time versus the strike marines.
All valid points, man. Like, but yeah, I do love my servitors. I've been using them since 8th because they're awesome action monkeys. But with cleansing ritual or purifying ritual or whatever it's called, being so strong right now, it's a hard pick because, like you said, they can't actually do that. So John Drago says that he's been tinkering with the warlord trait of Demon Slayer and Hammer of Righteousness on a Grandmaster in a Dread Knight, and has found that to be a good combo. So you get an extra attack from Demon Slayer, I believe.
Yeah, so Demon Slayer gives you +1 attack, and then if you do fight a demon keyworded model, then they do not get to take their invulnerable saves. And then the Hammer of Righteousness is that you get +1 if you charge, heroically intervene, something like that. And the classic Trinity, and then you get +1 to wounds. So basically, what this Dread Knight Grandmaster is doing is he's you know, quite a few attacks. I think he goes up to 6 or 7 attacks or something like that, and then 2s to hit, re-rolling depending on what Brotherhood he's in. Obviously, if he's in the Prescient Brethren, he can make himself for 1 CP, re-roll 1s to hit and wound. If he takes the Athematic Scrolls, then you get 1 re-roll hit and 1 re-roll wound. And then he's pretty much 99% of the time winning everything on twos, or he's going for a sweep attack for like 14 attacks or something ridiculous like that. So he's a little beast, this Dread Knight Grandmaster. And I think if I do take a Dread Knight Grandmaster eventually, depending on obviously tinkerings and stuff, that is the combo I am taking on him.
Yeah, that's a hell of a melee threat for sure. Joshua Newberry says you could use Steelheart on your paladins for +1 weapon skill. They're already at a 2+ right now. I think that's one of the buffs all paladins got. So it's not just the Paragon now with a 2+. All of them do. I guess if you put hammers on every single one of them, that is huge. But otherwise, you're saving Steelheart to do something like counteract lightning reflexes or some other minus to hit. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely an option.
Yeah, it's all relative. Like, so for example, if you're being hit by a -1 through lightning fast, through just Nurgle stuff, through anything, you can go, right, I'll just take myself back up to a 2-up. Yeah, so it is good. So it's definitely something that, again, I think also helps the case. I just think, like we were saying, is that when we look at paladins and we go, these are really cool. However, what you can take in their place is just so much better. But I think, again, if I do this event I'm alluding to is a competitive event, not as in like my goal for it would be to do well, but at least to take something a bit wacky to do well with. So it's definitely in my mind. So unless I find a super good reason not to do it, then it may be happening.
Yeah. And then there's the John Drago also made a comment about how slow paladins are, which is true. Terminators are slow. But we do have gate. I think clown mode mentioned that. We have gate, and then as Jake mentioned, for 1 CP you can give yourself the shoot move or move shoot move power. So if you really need to like rocket them up the board, but you really need to use gate somewhere else, you have that option, or you can do a Jeek. Wow, man, I have a problem with your name, apparently. Or you can do what Jake said, and you can be dodgy with them. You can be in cover, move out, cast that power, shoot, and then move back in to cover. That's playing more 8th edition style, right? Where, like, we don't want to get shot because we were made of paper.
It's why I like it. It's why I like it.
It is frustrating. It's like, God, can't even touch that 600-point unit.
Yeah, keyword there, that 600-point unit. But, so.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's
do everything you can.
It's a points cost, for sure. Clown Mode also asks, how do you manage your CP? This army feels super CP hungry. I feel that. I really do. A lot of the lists you'll see right now are running 2 detachments, and I find that 3 CP costs like high, really high. At least for me, I'm not that great of a player, so I kind of like lean into and fall back on like, oh, I have a stratagem to just get out of this terrible decision I made. So I need them for sure. Jake is a little better at the game than I am.
I think CP management's a massive thing. It's something we teach on our academy as well, which is obviously about how to use your CPs in the right manner. So obviously going from the 8th edition book, like I had nothing to spend my CPs on. I was a single battalion, loving life, starting on my 12 CP, rocking up, getting 2 CPs a go because of 1 for the turn, 1 for the power. It was awesome. I loved it. And then now I've been thrown in the deep end a bit here. So we've now only 9 CPs in my list. So.
Yeah, man, I would. I mean, the way I played in 8th is like maybe I wait till turn 3, but by the start of turn 4, I better have no CP left. Because the design of Psychic Awakening for the Grey Knights for 8th is okay. So when 8th came out, we gave them this garbage codex. Let's slap on all these amazing stratagems on top.
Yeah.
And that's what will make them competitive. But as soon as we ran out of those CP, it was just
It was
like
definitely hard.
it was a real uphill slog at that point. I definitely like, you know, I've done. I mean, you can watch my streams where I usually just do it for comedy value, but like I'll burn Overwatch on stupid decisions, or I won't save enough CP to interrupt because I'm trying to like put on a show. But yeah, I definitely feel you there. Like CP is that's a whole other like Warhammer mini game.
Yeah, I think CPs is the mini game inside of the game, but I think the key thing to see about your CPs is again something that we say a lot on the channel, which is if you're swapping your CPs for VPs, then it's all right. So, for example, if I'm spending one command point, let's say to
That's an awesome line, by the way.
if I'm spending one command point because I'm getting exploding sixes on my rapiers, and what that will achieve for me is potentially a I don't know, like a no prisoners, like a point on no prisoners, or a swing on an objective, that then could deny my opponent points. Like if I'm getting a net gain of, let's say, 10 VPs for one CP, then you go for it every single time.
Yeah.
It's how you also look at the whole if let's say, okay, you've shot me loads on this objective, I need to take a morale check now, or I can just spend TCP to ignore it. Okay, if I take the risk of rolling the dice, there's a potential that I'm going to flee, and then because of that, I'm going to lose, let's say, 5 points. Let's say it's a hold 1, hold 2 mission. I'm going to lose 5 points for doing that because I'm only on 2 objectives. Or equally, you know, let's say you're holding more than your opponent, you know, then you could lose, 5 points for doing that. I just cut the failure points out and just go, right, TCP, bang,
Yeah.
ignore that morale. It may seem like a lot at that time, but that could be the 5 points that swings that game for you.
Yeah, that's an awesome point, man. Like you have to weigh everything that's going on the board with the goals that you're trying to accomplish. So,
yeah.
I am getting around part of this CP stuff by writing a lot of prescient brethren lists with the divination warlord trait, which is their warlord trait that allows them to regen command points. I also I write a lot of battalion lists right now, and that way when I roll into a game, you know, I'll have 8 or 10 CP instead of 7. The good news is we have very good relics, but not. It's not like, so I also play Deathwatch, and they have amazing relics. And it's like if you don't take 3 relics with Deathwatch, you're handicapping yourself. And luckily, I don't think that Grey Knights, they don't feel that way. Like Fury of Demos is awesome, but it's only 1 Stormbolter, right? The Soul Glaive is great, but you can only stick it on a character. And Drago's already an absolute monster beat stick without any relics. I mean, theoretically, I guess he does have one, but that's not one you're paying for, right? So, like, that saves us extra command points that I feel like you don't have to spend. You can if you want. Like you can load up every character with a warlord trait, and you can roll into a game with 5 command points. But I don't feel like we have to do that, unlike some armies. So
yeah, I think it's a case of, like, you look at some army books, so like Chaos Demons is a really good example, and the New Orc book as well is quite a good example of it, where actually your CPs are probably better spent on your pre-game stuff, having other attachments. So for example, with Demons, like, Demons are rocking into games of like 3 to 2, 3, 2, 3, 4 command points because they're
wow.
spending a load on detachments, and then they're wanting to spend a load on their exalted traits, and then some of the exalted ones want relics and all that. Orcs very similar, where it seems that a lot of people are doing is they're taking multiple detachments of different clans. I think Grey Knights are slightly different in that regard of you can go single battalion and you can go one brotherhood, but there are, like in my list as an example, where I've got the Dread Knight spearhead of Sword Brethren, and then I've got the battalion of rapiers. I've tried to I'm willing to take that CP hit because I'm maximizing my efficiencies on my units. So whereas I felt that if I have the Dread Knights in the rapier detachment, then yeah, I'm saving some CP. I don't feel they're going to be as effective as they are in that Sword Brethren detachment.
Yeah, I mean, I think some of it too is just, I'm just not that good at this game. I think I have like maybe 30 games total under my belt, maybe. That's probably pushing it, honestly.
Well, 31 after today.
That's true. Yeah.
I expect a big win for the old Grey Knights here. So.
Against Iron Warriors, yeah.
Yeah, let's see it.
I'm playing a friend of mine named Levi, and he's been playing forever. So every time we play, it's definitely, even though I think I have the advantage with the 9th edition codex, it's not going to be a walkover, that's for sure. He's a very, very solid player. I'm gonna just finish up this list real quick. We'll rock through some of the questions, and then we'll jump into list 2. So, Joshua says maybe you could bring an Ordo Xenos Inquisitor with mental interrogation to farm some CP. That's definitely an option. It's a little, I guess it's not that expensive because you can bring a bog standard Inquisitor for like 80 points, right? 85 points.
Yeah.
But you are, well, we're already...
It's all relative, that's the thing, so...
Yeah. So, if you want to bring a Rapier's detachment and try to farm CP with the Inquisitor, that's definitely something you could try. That's actually an interesting point, and I should make a note of that. And then Josh...
I like that, actually.
Yeah. I was trying to play with, gosh, there's an Inquisitor that gives fight last. But it's
Kyra.
Yeah, it's only if she charges, though. It's like, oh, that's so rough.
It's all right if you can guarantee kill whatever she charges into with everything else, but it's a bit too risky for my liking.
Yeah, I always worry about... We're already so character heavy anyway. I worry about throwing away assassinate points,
Yeah.
So.
Oh, yeah. It's not good.
Yeah. And then Joshua also asks, if you had to take an apothecary versus an ancient, which do you choose if you can only bring one? The answer to that is really, what are you trying to do, right?
Yeah, because there is that whole there is a brotherhood that also gives you like a 6 of feel no pain for their strat or their spell, and then if your apothecary's nearby, and then you can pick people up. I think, if I'm honest,
it's the preservers, by the way.
The preservers, that's the one. And I think that's good. Like, if I had to pick one, I'd probably just pick the paladin because I just think he's more useful in more scenarios. Like, for example, that +1 attack's really useful. And then obviously you can give him a relic banner. But I just think it depends on what type of thing you're going for. If I'm honest, I don't want to be mean, but if there was a third option of neither, I'd probably say neither. But that's just because of my list. That's just the my list. But I think as a more generalistic thing, I think taking a paladin, it's not a paladin ancient, just a normal ancient is more useful in the long run than an apothecary. But they both have a place. It all depends on what army and what theme you're sort of going for with your list.
And then kind of one of the crux ideas of this list is I brought a Venerable Dreadnought. And the idea for this guy was he's going to sit on one or the only backfield objective, he's got a 6-up feel no pain. He's gonna hit on 2s, and he's going to cast psychic ritual, or not psychic ritual, purifying ritual every turn. Like, this is 145 points for some long range shooting. I originally had a twin las on him, but then I ran out of points, so I dropped him to the plasma. The missile launcher is still a very long range, unfortunately D6 weapon, but that was my idea there, is that he's just going to at least bring me in 1 point every turn, if not setting up other units to bring in, 2 and then 4 every turn, right? So
yeah,
it's I don't know, it's not the greatest list, I don't think, but again, this is a one where I was kind of playing with 2 ideas, one being the Dreadnought and then one being this Paladin Bomb, and then obviously the Paladin Ancient supporting them with Fight First and Heroism's Favor. But I see now it's so few interceptors, it doesn't feel good anymore, right?
Yeah, I think when you analyze a book and you go through it, like for example, like I did, I had all the units in front of me and I was like, right, well, I think Strike Marines are really, really good. And then I was like, well, Incepts are just Strike Marines for 2 points more and are faster, so they're really, really, really good.
Yeah,
and then just again relative costs as well. That's the thing with it, isn't it? So
yeah, man, they're so like, the 12-inch move, the strat support, 2 wounds now. You can stick Sanctuary on them. You can use the teleport stratagem and then, gate another unit somewhere else on turn 1. Like, so good. So
it all has its mass uses, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. I mean, that's what's exciting about this game, right? Like, you can have 2 players of equal skill level with 2 different lists, and they're going to play totally differently. That's really cool. Like, just as a general game design, I love that. So I'm going to jump into my next list. This is kind of a meme list, going to be honest here. I have a Land Raider. I've never used it. So I was thinking, how do you use a Land Raider? So I plopped that in. Actually, don't know. Oh, that's right. Yeah. So I ran out of heavy support slots. So this is a battalion, I believe, that's then also running a spearhead, and so it has a Grandmaster and a Nemesis Dreadknight. It has a Land Raider. It has 3 other Dreadknights. 2 Brotherhood Tech Marines, so that you're awakening the Machine Spirit on that Land Raider, and you're healing everything. Lots of servitors. Some of that is because, like we said, they're amazing action monkeys. They're also better around a Tech Marine. They're still not good. There's nothing that makes a servitor good. But, they're better. And then just lots of strikes. I don't know. The Land Raider, the fact that Sword Bearers can give multiple vehicles a 4-up invul, one through the Sanctuary Power, and then one through their, I think it's their Warlord trait. Actually, don't remember now. Like, Land Raiders are expensive, and I think that the only reason we don't see more of them played is they don't have an invul. Like, even a 5-up. So it's like, you hit him with plasma, okay, great, you still get a save, generally speaking, but like, it's a 6-up at that point, and it's, it's, even though there are 18 wounds and very hard to kill. So I think if you put an invul on them and can heal them, right? Because one of the tech Marines can be inside of it and then it'll pop out later. I don't know. It's a meme list. I don't think this is a good list, but I do love my Dread Knights, and I do want to play my Land Raider.
I do love the Land Raider model. It's quite very iconic, obviously, for the old sort of school. I remember when I first started, and there was like posters, and it was everywhere, and everyone like had one, and it was awesome. And I remember looking at one, going, "Oh, this is so cool." But yeah, like it's just a shame that it hasn't really stood the test of time, as it were.
Yeah.
But no, I think points wise, it's not terrible. I just think that, again, relative value doesn't have an invul. All that sort of things do come into account with it. And also the big one of, if you get it in combat, then it's not looking good.
No, it's pretty terrible at that point.
Yeah, but then obviously, like you've alluded to, obviously the Tech Marines I think are a really good choice. Obviously, you've got you've got those. They can heal your Dread Knights. They can heal your Land Raider. I think we'll more be looking at them to heal the Dread Knights, just because I think the Land Raider may not be on the table for very long. But but obviously the other thing as well this list does really well is that obviously it synergizes around your theme of your sword brethren, and sword bearers. That's a very big one when it comes to the list. Is that like you've got, when making a list, it's really, really important to understand the theme you're going for, whether that's, I don't mean theme in a narrative sense as well, yeah. Right. But when we're looking at the competitive side of list making, you look at your theme. So for example, when I allude to that Paladin list, I'm building it around a theme of, to the last secondary, I'm building it around a theme of, a big sort of bulky unit, that's going to be getting me my secondary points. My list that I built the theme to, the other one, was the synergizing of the right detachments to do relative things. It was built around a theme of purifying ritual on a lot of my objectives. It was built around a theme of, secondary picks and all that sort of things, so once you have that theme, so again, whether that's for your competitive side of playing, with your secondary picks, your tech picks, all those sort of things, that's really, really great. But then it's also about sort of bringing it back in and going, right, so how does this list do that? And obviously by you having all these characters, by having this sword bearers stuff, and you then also you building around all these vehicles, and then having the servitors to do your actions, and you got your mandatory troops, then obviously then when it all sort of comes together, it actually works quite well, I think.
I definitely think if a friend of mine messaged me and said, "Hey, I want to play new Grey Knights, but I want to play, a less than optimal, right, like fun game." I play so few games, and my friends are very competitive that we are like trying the latest meta stuff all the time, right? We're in it to win it. But if they were like, "Hey, I want to play something a little less brutal," I would probably bring this list. It does give up, this gives up secondaries like fucking crazy though, right? Because what are you gonna take against this list? If you don't have a Psyker, you're obviously gonna take Abhor. You're gonna take Assassinate because I have 5 characters, and you're gonna take Bring Them Down because I have tons of vehicles, right? So if you kill my Grandmaster and a Nemesis Dread Knight, that's gonna give up 3 for Assassinate, 2 for Grind Them Down, and is it 3 for Abhor the Widths?
Yeah, actually it'll be 3.
Actually, it's 4 for Assassinate because he's my warlord. So that one model, yes, he's hard to kill. He's got all of the goodies on him, but that one model is worth 11 points or something. So
yeah. It's definitely a fun list. I think also you have 4 Dread Knights in it as well, which is, for me, you can get brownie points because I love Dread Knights.
Me too, man. I absolutely love them.
So obviously, but that can still, 4 Dread Knights, Grandmaster and 3 Little Uns, that's still really good. I think, as you said there, I think it's definitely not the most optimized list in the world, but it is fun. I would play that and have a whale of a time. So,
so John is asking, what is the transport capacity for the Crusaders? It is 16, sir. 16.
So in theory, you could put every model on pretty much. You could put all your strikes and then the librarian in there, which would be funny.
It would be funny. It would also paint a huge target on that thing.
So there's multiple options at least you have with it. again, I think when it comes to Grey Knights, I think a Rhino. I think like the most I'm ever looking at for my transports is a Rhino, sadly. Um, and that's just even just to do like little cool tricks with the moving, shooting from the Inceptors, or equally just to make sure certain units are safe and stuff. But yeah, the Land Raiders are cool. I don't think they ever won't be cool. Just we need the rules to make them cool.
Yeah. I wish we could take the was it the Terminus Ultra with the 8 las cannons? That'd be funny.
That would be sick. I just think it just needs like we just need like Land Raiders, like you said, just to have an involved. Whether it's a 5-up or something, that would be cool. And yeah, like that would I think that would at least make them a bit more like, oh, okay, so like, oh, I'll use this now instead of what is that?
Yeah.
Like, you know.
Yeah. John also asks, so you could put paladins inside with a character. Yes, Terminators do take up 2 slots though. So you could, if you wanted to bring like a Brotherhood librarian, who's in Terminator armor, you're looking at 7 paladins maximum, and then 1 librarian or whatever. You could put a Tech Marine in there for 1 slot. So it's a lot of transport capacity.
Yeah,
right.
you can put an ancient and some 7 paladins in there as well. Like it's all sort of got some good stuff there. So
Yeah, I mean that would be a melee threat. It's just got to live through turn 1, right?
yeah, that's just a big if. If it lives through turn 1, we're all right.
Yeah. All right, so this is a list that I'm planning on running tonight or this afternoon against my Iron Warriors friend. I don't know what he's bringing. I know he loves his Greater Brass Scorpion, so we might see that. So Prescient Brethren Battalion. I want to run Prescient Brethren because I just want to try them out. I haven't yet. I've played Rapiers, I've played Sword Bearers, so I want to try out Prescient Brethren. I have the Brotherhood Chaplain with the redeploy, Words of Power, and then he also has the Divination Warlord trait. And warp shaping. I don't think I'll be. That's a whole other discussion. Is Tides, but then I have my Ubiquitous because I love him so much. Mostly because I 3D printed my own face and stuck it on this guy. But the Grandmaster in the Nemesis Dread Knight with all the goodies. Drago, of course. That's all of my characters. I got strike squads, so I put a silencer on the 2 that I'm assuming are in backfield and not going to move. If I'm in Tide of Convergence, they have a 30-inch range on that silencer, so maybe a little bit of chip damage. It's free, so why not? If they get charged in the backfield, they're probably going to die anyway, so I'm not really worried about losing that melee weapon. These points here are what I want to talk about in particular, but we'll come back to that. I've got a ton of Interceptors, 3 8-man blobs. Actually, these are wrong. The 2 other squads here will have swords, not halbards, but I have to run these as falchions because that's what I've got modeled. So I know that's a sub-optimal pick, but there you go. And then 2 other Nemesis Dread Knights with all of the fixings as well. I was thinking about dropping the teleporters on these guys, starting them on the board. I can always be very aggressive, redeploy them later. I'll probably be popping that teleport strat on either the Interceptors or the Grandmaster Dread Knight, not the normal Dread Knight, so I don't really need the teleporters. So that's 20 points I could find. Originally, this slot was a paladin, or not a paladin ancient, a Brotherhood ancient, Heroism's Favor. I could burn 1 more CP and give him the gyro telmetic whatever that gives fight first. I can't remember what the name of that.
Yeah, the
that relic is.
gyrotometic volt or something
Yeah.
like that.
So these 115 points, maybe 125 or 135, depending on if I drop those teleporters or not. That's what I'm not really sold on right now. Thought it might be fun to bring like a kind of large purgation squad with actually no heavy weapons in it, because they have a pretty good strat. And then they have Astral Aim is not what it used to be, but ignoring cover is not bad. That's true, or that is for sure. The question is it worth not smiting? But so what do you think against Iron Warriors? I've actually never played Iron Warriors. I assume he's gonna have a lot of vehicles. So I'm gonna have to carve through him with melee and the heavy weapons on the Dread Knights.
Yeah, so we've got. So if we look at, so is this 2,000 point?
I believe so. Oh,
It's 1946. So
okay, so I've got a lot of extra points.
You've got 54 plus. If we're looking. I'm just seeing like if we dropped everything, like in terms of all the stuff you said about you wanted to drop, what do we leave? What does that leave us with?
Plus 115, plus 20.
Yeah.
So
you've got a maximum of 189 points to play with.
Yeah. So I was under by a lot. I realized that. Originally, I was just going to pump up the interceptor squads more with any points that I had left. I think the last version of this that I actually had, I was closer. I think it was 1991, and I had one more interceptor in 2 of the 3 squads, and that ate up most of those points. But yes, it was very hard to find like 9 points or 5 points or something.
Yeah. I think so I'm just gonna get my calculator up on here because it's easier I was trying to do it on my computer, but it's not, my computer's not enjoying that. So
Drago's got a great point. I could do a rhino. I have 2 of them. I could put the purifiers in a rhino.
Yeah, so I was thinking you could drop your teleporters.
Okay.
Plus, and then the teleporters are so that's 74 points. How many points is a rhino? Is it 80?
They're 80? They might be 85. 80. I think they're 80. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, so there's a potential that may not work.
I'm already seeing I'm a little.
What you could do is you could take out the purifiers.
All right.
Take the teleporters off the Dread Knights, and then that will give you max units of Inceptors and also enough points for free unit of 4 servitors, I believe, if my maths is right. Just double check it.
Well, I'm actually doing this in Battlescribe as we speak. So I dropped the teleporters, I maxed out the interceptors. I now have 45 points to spend. So even after I buy servitors, I still have 15 points to play with.
So this is where we look at our friends here.
Unfortunately, I already have my 2 non-named characters already have their Wisdom of the Prognosticars. So I can't put them, I can't give them any more. And 15 points is like, woo!
Yeah, let's have a look, let's think.
So we got some ideas from chat as well.
Yeah. I see.
Drop 1 interceptor. I did not put in an Inquisitor. I don't have an Inquisitor model. I don't think Levi would care if I proxied something as one, but I don't actually have one.
You could always give it a go. I'm just trying to.
And a bog standard Inquisitor is 60 points.
Okay, so
that's actually stupid cheap.
Yeah, that is really good. To make him do you have to pay for to give him an order, whatever it's called?
I don't
Or
think
does
so.
he just
Let
get
me
it for free?
check. He
I
gets
think
it
he
for
just.
free.
Oh, here we go. Oh,
So,
cool. So there you go.
Ordo Xenos, but then hold on. Arbiter of the Emperor's Will. Regarded as your warlord.
Oh yeah, you
Oh,
can
I
give him an
see.
extra
Yeah.
warlord trait.
Yeah, no.
Because
That's okay.
he's an
Don't need to
agent
do
of the
that.
Imperium, he doesn't take up a slot, I don't think.
Yeah, so the Ordo Xenos is the one that gives... When resolving an attack is not Chaos, Empyrean, or Unaligned. So how do I give him the mental interrogation thing? Or the...
I think it's a spell. I think it's a spell that he can have. Or
I'm-
do you have to pay to make him a wizard?
Oh, Psyker, yeah. So it's an option that you turn on, and then I see now, and then mental interrogation. So for 60 points, this guy, well, until the start of your next. Oh, that's actually subtract one from the hit roll, and then if I beat their leadership, you gain 1 command point. But I already have the Divination Warlord trait, and you can only gain 1 CP back per turn from any of these abilities, which means I could turn them into a Rapier's detachment instead.
Yeah. It gives you some freedom, and then you can give the Dread Knight Grandmaster run and charge, maybe.
He's already got those.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Unyielding Anvil and First into the Fray are really good. My chaplain is who has the Divination Warlord trait. So if I drop Divination, I change to Rapiers. What else? Yeah, I'm over by 45 points.
And then if you just drop the
Servitors
and an Interceptor.
And yeah, 1 Interceptor, and now I'm at 1991 again.
There you go. I think that's good.
So I will export this so everybody can actually see it now.
Yeah. There we go.
Bam. All right, so dropped these teleporters, went up to almost max size interceptors. Troops are exactly the same. We're now a Rapier's detachment, and then I have an Inquisitor now from the Ordo Xenos with mental interrogation. So there you go.
That's pretty good. I think that should do quite well. And then the big thing is that he makes the unit -1 to hit anyway. So even if you don't get the CP back, like, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah,
you haven't spent many. I don't think you've only spent 1.
Yeah. So
you still got 11. Like, that's more than me, and I felt that I found that 9 was quite a lot.
It says I have 10. I spent 2 on extra warlord traits. Or
okay.
I spent. Oh wait, yeah, I don't need that extra warlord trait now.
Anymore.
So there's just the free one here, and then actually that's
one you've given him.
Oh yeah, that's right. I gave him another.
So you're starting on 11 CP, which is
a lot.
Which is really good, actually. That will let you do more tricks. As I said, I think that, like, I was finding on 9 CP, I was getting off all the stuff I needed to, but I had to think about it a lot more. Whereas with the 11, you have a bit more wiggle room to be able to do things like, oh, I'll just pop a ignore leadership, or oh, I'll just use a quick teleport or something like that. So, that gives you a bit more tactical flexibility in that regard. And this little Inquisitor, also, he's a character who can he can sit on an objective for you if you really want. He can obviously do a psychic power and potentially give you a command point, but also make a unit -1 to hit. So there's a few little things this little guy can do for 60 points. So it's quite nice.
Not bad. Purifying Ritual specifically says a Grey Knight's Psyker, so unfortunately this Inquisitor won't be able to get that. But yes, he can stand on an objective. I still have 9 points, but I don't know what to do with 9 points. I think Drago just actually pointed out, I guess I could upgrade one of the silencers to Psy Cannon. So if I
Yeah,
drop if I add a side cannon in instead, now I'm at 996, which actually means I could drop the other silencer and make it a side cannon.
And then I think
Oh, 2001. Damn.
Oh.
Where'd this 1 point come from? It's driving me bonkers.
Yeah, I think if you could take that out, you take that out and give the. I think you have to go at 1996, sadly.
Yeah, 1996. I'd have one silencer, one side cannon, and one just bog standard strike squad. So I will now plop that into the list again. So there you go.
There we go. But it's funny how so if you think you dropped 5 models and you gained 5, you gained 5 inceptors. Well, but then and you've gained a character.
Yeah.
And by dropping 5 models in 2 upgrades, and obviously then the points you had spare anyway. So it's funny. It's funny how when you just jiggle things around slightly. But yeah, I definitely think the other thing those Inceptor units will give you is that option to combat squad them for 2 of the units. So you've got the same layout as me with the 29 Inceptors. So you can have your unit of 9 to go around, and you've got unit 9 to go around and bully things, and then you've got if you need to, you can combat squad 2 of the 10-man units to 5-man units. So it gives you good trading potential. But yeah, I think that's really good, and I think that the Iron Warriors are definitely gonna feel a bit of wrath from the real Silver Marines around here. So
I gotta be super careful about empiric amplification and making sure that I get into range to actually use it.
Yeah. Well, worst case, you just spend 1 CP, increase your range by 6 on the.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Spell with 10 than 12.
Oh, so. We had a little bit of an internet hiccup again. So you said spend 1 CP to increase my range by 6 inches, and then everything else after that was. So
yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah, but you were saying something. So
yeah, it's definitely good. I think again also, like, if we look at your spell list real quick, obviously you've got your 2 gates, that's really good. You've got your sanctuary, you got ghostly bonds, is obviously when we discussed it in the video previous. I think it's a really good
definitely
one.
Sold me, especially if you like, if he does bring the greater brass scorpion. Not to say that I'm tailoring here, but if you put that on the greater brass scorpion, that's obnoxious.
Yeah. Well, yeah, mate, half move is such a massive deal, especially if you play versus things like that, play versus knights, anything like that, and you can just go call your half move. It's incredible. So I think to have that in an army, like, no matter who you're playing, you need it in the pocket at some point, whether that's on. I think it's good on Dragage just because he has the good spell list to choose from, and him knowing 3 spells also really good. And then obviously you have Gate of Infinity and Empiric Amplification.
Yeah, and then so yeah, that's my.
Excuse me.
Yeah, you don't. Oh, let's see. Allergies.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think it's getting that time. I think with it being a bit warmer in the UK today, maybe the pollen counts up or something.
Yeah, Is it Peter? Peter? He's definitely right. We end up in a weird point situation every now and then. It's because I think it's because of because they're a round number. Where am I getting this 1 point from?
Imagine it's
like, because the interceptors are 24 points apiece.
It'll be the 16 on the interceptors. Because obviously you plus the 5s and you're going to 11, so yeah, it's an odd one. Damn 16 points.
Curses. Yeah, and I don't have enough characters to put. Yeah, I can't put a Wisdom of the Prognosticars on the Inquisitor, obviously. So.
No, sadly not.
No.
It's alright though.
Let's see, what other cheeky stuff could I do? So at 11 CP now, I could actually give the chaplain what? Could give him a relic.
So you could give him the vault.
I could give him the vault.
Which is obviously the fight. You do an action and then you pick a unit within 3, and they get fight first. Your Nemesis Dread Knight, what relic does he have?
He has the Sigil of Exigence for the whole. Go ahead, please shoot me. Now I'm in your face.
That's quite good. Yeah, no, I do like the Sigil. That's a good one. I like the Athematic Scrolls as well, just for the reroll 1 hit roll 1 wound roll. That's also quite nice for him. I think it is at least. Yeah, you can reroll 1 hit 1 wound.
Yeah,
roll 1 hit 1 wound roll. So that's obviously quite nice as well. I think that obviously, like, relics wise, the vault could be good. Just for that, just in case, but I don't think it's needed. I don't remember what Santic Shard does.
Sanctic Shard changed. It's when you do a Deny the Witch now, so on a 8+, it automatically passes.
Oh, cool. Well, that's all right then. Then maybe better for if the meta changes a bit more to a more Thousand Suns Grey Knight heavy, depending on obviously what happens as well. But obviously that's all right. The Crucifix is quite nice as well. You could pop that. That's +1 save to the bear and 5+. Is it 5+ mortal wound save or just a normal? No, just 5+.
Yeah, I was actually just looking at the Cuirass of Sacrifice, because it basically means he ignores AP1, and then on a 5+, he's got a 5+ Feel No Pain, and that's just awesome.
The thing is as well that, like, on the Dread Knight, that could be really good as well, because obviously that puts him on a 1-up save, and then 5+ Feel No Pain, damage prevention roll, however you want to call it. Like, that's really good as well.
You're right, it would be, but the Cuirass can only go on infantry, not vehicles. Yeah.
It shows how much I know the relics. I only ever look at one.
I don't think that relic changed between 8th and 9th. It's the same one. But nobody took it. No one took it.
Yeah, I didn't even know. I didn't even know it was in the 8th, but that's how relevant it was.
Between the, like, in 8th it was the Gorium Scrolls were amazing, the Sanctic Shard was amazing, and the Utterson Nullifier Matrix was amazing. So between those 3, it didn't leave you a lot of other relics to look at. And then if you wanted to go with offensive relics, the Soul Glaive or whatever, the reroll all hits and all wounds was good in 8th. It's still good in 9th. So like the Cuirass was so far down the list. It's like, why you would never really look at it, right? So I don't blame you for not knowing what it does. I had to look it up too. I only
ever took the Santic Shard. That was the only relic I knew, because I was like, oh, this is quite good.
Sanctic Shard was pretty much an auto take, which is how I feel about Sigil of Exigence now, because any character that gets shot, especially one that doesn't, like, it's perfect on a Grandmaster Dread Knight. They're a character who can't benefit from Lookout Sir, so you can get shot at any time, and instead you can be like, well, now I'm in your backfield behind terrain and you can't shoot me anymore, and then on my turn, because you're shooting me, your movement phase is already done, so you can't come back here and, like, do anything yet, so I get to go be hilarious on my turn. John,
an interesting one.
Oh, what's that? Sorry.
That was it. I was just saying it's an interesting one with obviously the Sigil and stuff. I think if you're having those Dread Knight Grandmasters in your army, you need to at least give one of them that.
Yeah, it's really it's so cheeky. It almost feels like you're being a complete dick. John Drago actually says that he loves the Sigil as well. He used it during a tournament, and I guess dice went flying. He's saying so.
Could be a bit of a gotcha one on that one with the
Yeah,
whole oh, you target me, and then you can also do things with it where like you stay in range of the unit and you just put like it's say only one model can see, so then you're still an eligible target for the unit and all that. So because it's done
yeah.
on a unit, it's not
Make it.
model by model, you're like, cool, yeah, your flamer is, or like your bolter is in range but nothing else, and this one model can see, so you can't even shoot all the good guns or whatever. So
Yeah,
yeah,
John.
it's definitely an interesting one.
John said exactly that. So he had a Retributor squad, and he moved so just the bolter could actually fire at him instead of all the meltas. Steve, which Steve? There's a lot of Steves, John.
I am Steve Box, my Steve.
Yeah,
Or
I don't.
any,
Yeah, I don't. That's why I'm asking.
I'm having a look in the chat because I'm just gonna.
There is a 20-second delay, so.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
no, I think he's referring to Steve Box because
Okay.
that's what he did when we debuted the Grey Knight book on the channel. Is he when he was playing Eddie from VT as well. He moved it so the Dread Knight Grandmaster was just within one bolter range and one model could see him, which is quite amusing. But
That's so amazing.
yeah, it's definitely a funny one. I do very much enjoy that.
Oh man. Ooh. So should I take First Into the Fray or Inescapable Wrath? Advance and charge on the Dread Knight? Ooh.
Yeah, I think if you're looking between those ones, I think Inescapable Wrath, the run and charge and +1 to wound is probably the most optimal. I don't think First the Fray is as good unless you're like with how you've got him set up there. Like you want to have the +1 to wound and you want him to get into combat. So obviously the run and charge is going to be really good. It's just a shame that he can't shoot when he does
I was
it as
just gonna say he is 1/3 of my anti-tank.
You could always just go Demon Slayer instead of the Wrath, just so that he has a ton of attacks. Because if you're thinking he's going to be teleporting 9 away and he moves 9, the thing he's going to want to charge is going to be within distance anyway.
Yeah, actually, you know what? Demon engines are demons.
Yeah.
And so he would also be ignoring invuls against demon engines.
So obviously a good pick anyway, but just that extra thing that just makes it a bit better.
Yeah.
Is that obviously when playing versus the demon engines, like also if you think as well, Bellacor's sort of cropping up a bit slightly. So again, versus him's really good considering he has like you can't re-roll to hit versus him, and he has like -1 to hit and -1 to wound.
Bellacor's
sort of things.
Bellacor's scarier than Mortarion, I think.
Yeah, Bellacor's really good.
Like, Morty is just a sack of wounds you have to make to, like, get through, and he's scary in melee, but, like, Be'lakor is buffing everybody, debuffing you. Oh, I mean, I know Morty is debuffing you with, like, no reroll or just Contagion in general is very good, but, like, Be'lakor just brings it up to a whole nother level,
Yeah, I think Bellacor's a really good piece, and I think the Disciples list is quite good, but there's so many restrictions and so many things that it's actually probably better just to pop Be'lakor in a normal Chaos Demon detachment and just sack off the Disciple stuff and just slot him into your army list that way.
All right, well, I'll go ahead and update this again. So now we have Demon Slayer. Oh, I could
+1 attack, +1 to wound.
Well, you can't do it multiple times, but I could give Demon Slayer to Drago instead.
Yeah, there's also that option as well. I think it's probably better on the Grandmaster Dread Knight, just because obviously when he does the sweep attack, then at least he's going to get, I believe it'll be 14 attacks on the sweep then, because he has 7 attacks with you have 6 base 7 for the
Yeah,
the Demon
for the
Slayer.
charge, yeah. So 14 sweep attacks, hitting on 2s.
Yeah. No,
And
no
then,
rerolls, sadly, but unless you
yeah,
give Drago rerolls to him.
yeah. Oh well. Well, hey, that's all the lists I had. I'm gonna get into the one question that we got from the forum that I threw up yesterday. This is a big question, so it actually works out. From Patrick Boyd, he asks if you had to make a solid fun list with one detachment for each brotherhood, which I don't even think is possible because you don't have enough CP.
Not in a match, not in a
Yeah,
match play game anyway. But
yeah. How would you go about doing so? I'm gonna narrow the question a bit,
yeah,
just because I'm assuming we mean a 2,000 point competitive match
Yeah.
play game. So you're gonna want a maximum of 3 detachments total, so 2 extra ones. I would take sword bearers with a whole bunch of dread knights, including a grandmaster. I would take a rapiers, and I would take a prescient brethren. That's what I would personally do. Like, that is what immediately came to mind to me. But you're like you're gonna be starting with like 3 CP or something, right?
It depends how you're doing the detachment. So, like for example, you can go with your sword bearers detachment. So obviously you've got a Grandmaster Dread Knight there, and then you've got the 3 Dread Knights in that. So that makes it quite thematic as well.
Yeah.
And
So
then in terms of your other detachments, you go to patrols. So you'll start at least on 7 CP because you'll be -5 before any relics, any extra relics, or any extra bits like that.
Well, actually,
Um,
let's play with this. I'm not gonna pull Battlescribe up on the stream just because it'll be very, very tiny, and no one will be able to actually read what I'm doing. So I'm not gonna waste time doing that. But if we start with, so let's start with a spearhead
yeah,
for. Come on. Yeah, there you go. Grandmaster, Nemesis Dread Knight, and then we're gonna add in 3 Nemesis Dread Knight, so that's good.
yeah.
And then I would do a what
I'd
is
go
it?
with patrol.
Is it
The,
which one's the one that would let you bring 3 interceptors? The 3 fast attack, is that
the 3. Oh yeah, the Outrider detachment.
Outrider?
Yeah.
So that's where I put my rapiers, and then I would do a patrol of
The
the
President Brethren.
Prescient Brethren. So
Yeah.
and then, because it's funny to me, I would probably try to stick as many Grandmaster Dread Knights into this as possible, and this would actually bring you to 3 Grandmaster Dread Knights and 3 regular Dread Knights. I don't know if that will fit, but we can take a look here.
So if we think the normal Dread Knights without teleporters, with the sword and the other thing, they are
So I'll
175.
so I'll put Drago in the Outrider along with obviously the Interceptors. So we'll drop that. We'll go to I'll put these at maximum Interceptor squads for now. Don't think they'll stay that way. Just because we're gonna run out of points here. We're already at 1495 and I haven't done anything into the patrol yet. So
well, it could work because all you need for the patrol is a chaplain
yep,
and
that's exactly
a
what
unit,
I was gonna do.
a unit of strikes.
And 2 strikes, right? I think
No,
you need 2 for patrol.
patrol you only patrol you only need 1 troop.
Really? Oh, hey,
Yeah,
look at that.
you can take 3, but you only need 1, which is nice.
Gotcha. All right, so we're at 1715 actually. That's not terrible.
So in theory, if you dropped the chaplain, you could take another Dread Knight. Oh no, actually, you could just take another Dread Knight Grandmaster anyway in that President Brethren detachment. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I put Drago as the HQ choice for
the rapiers.
Yeah, which I realize won't max us out on the Grandmaster Dread Knights, but you know, I guess we have to make concessions somewhere. All right, HQ Grandmaster and Nemesis Dread Knight. Wow, they're only 150 to start. Wow, that's good.
Yeah, that's with no guns, sadly.
Yeah, I know, but that's
just
like
2 fists.
yeah. So Gatling silencer, side cannon. All right, we're now at 1920.
Yeah.
So this could actually work. I mean, it would be hard to keep track of everything though. like this is
little base. You can have these little base, like, you know, things that basically denote like detachments. I know some people like they have the little base gripper things, and then like they're like the red ones are this and the blue ones are that. Some people obviously paint the models differently. I'm someone who paints the models. I'll try and keep my color scheme uniform, but I'll have like a distinct feature on the model that will indicate it being a part of a different you know, brotherhood. So luckily with my current list, I don't have a thing that really denotes it, but only because there's only 3 models that are gaining a different benefit, as it were. So it's quite obvious in that regard. So you know, for my opponent, but if I was running like 3 units of strikes, they're all in different detachments, then I think then maybe having like, even if it's just one has green shoulder pads, one has red shoulder pads, one has blue shoulder pads, you know, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I've thought about that too, but I try so much goofy stuff all the time that I think that I would just drive myself bonkers. So
I think it's only good if you commit to like, as in you definitely know these are the sort of ones you're taking, but yeah.
All right, so I've got what we've got so far up here on the screen. Again, we're looking at 1920 at the moment. Obviously, this isn't done yet. Also, John wanted to congratulate you on your beard, Jake. It is looking very good. You got to get this part to actually come in now. You got to get this. That's the.
I know. I'm actually getting it trimmed at in a bit.
Oh no!
So, that's my So but wait, I say in a bit.
Hold the phone. You told me you had a hard stop, which is legit, but you have a hard stop to go trim your beard? I'm offended.
Yeah. Well, no, not trim my beard. I've got a haircut appointment, but it's with a family member, so I'm going around there for a family gathering.
All right. That's all right.
It's a family gathering, but the person who is hosting it is a hairdresser, so I get my hair cut with them.
So I just found out why we have so many points, and it's because the Dread Knights had no guns. So
yeah.
Damn, how are we gonna do this? No, they're gonna have to be like pretty bare bones Dread Knights.
You may not be able to give them swords, so you could make them just like gun platforms, but you'll have to drop.
I can't give them. So if I give them all the best guns, we're 40 points over now.
Oh, so
which means now I was gonna say now we start dropping interceptors, don't we?
Yeah, so I dropped 2 out of 1 unit just so then you can still combat squad the other 2.
That's a great point. Bam. Yeah. So now we're 8 under.
Looking good though.
Yeah, looking good.
5 Dread Knight Grandmasters. No, sorry, 5 Dread Knights, 2 Grandmasters, 3 normal.
Yep. Yeah, that's pretty good. And then I'm not gonna waste all the time. Well, actually, I might as well. It's not a waste, but we can talk about powers now. I was gonna say it's gonna eat up time on the stream, but that's okay. We're here having a conversation, so it's not eating up time. It's a legitimate talk.
It's chatting.
Yeah. So Drago can. Yeah. So Drago, I like to give him Gate of Infinity, Sanctuary, and Ghostly Bonds. I think one of these Grandmasters definitely needs Vortex of Doom. And then I like to have a backup of Sanctuary and or Gate, preferably Gate, because like it's such an amazing power. That's so much movement for free. So I'll give the other Grandmaster in the Prescient Brethren Patrol, I'll give him Gate and Vortex.
Yeah.
Because he's also going to be trying to get into melee. The other Grandmaster, oh, I actually gave him the same stuff. So let's drop Vortex off of him and give him Pyrrhic Amplification. And then we're looking at the Chaplain, who I gave Warp Shaping. And then I paid he's the actual Warlord for Divination. And the only relic I've paid for so far is on the Swordbearer's Grandmaster Dread Knight for the Sigil of Exigence. So I will post up what we have now right here. So we are looking at starting with a whole 5 CP at the moment. I suggest not buying any other relics. Because
no, I think
bring
we're
us
pretty
down to
alright as
4.
it is.
Yeah, this actually looks like a really fun list, but I would have to write notes like, wow, so many notes, because otherwise
It looks good as well. Like if you think there's 5 Dread Knights in this list, you've got Drago, you've got 28 Inceptors, so you can combat squad. You probably will be combat squadding just for the trading potential, just because obviously, you've got a lot of points held up in those. You can use the Dread Knights just as gun platforms, so instead of also being really aggressive with them, they can just sit near the back of the board and just, with their 30-inch range within the Tide of Convergence, their fists are not gonna, and then it means if they do get into combat, at least they can punch something to death.
Yeah, for sure.
And then you've got the Dread Knight Grandmasters as well. Obviously, they've got the sweep attack on the sword. They're going to be the ones that will be going up doing, getting in people's faces.
I added a link to the paste bin for this list if anybody's curious. It's in the description. It might take a little while for the description to update, but if you want to see this list in all of its glory, it's now up on there. But man, yeah, I love the Dread Knight. So they gave him 1 more inch of movement. They gave him 1 more armor save. I believe they were 3-ups before, and they're 2-ups now. And then they gave him that 4-up invul, and that 4-up invul is so clutch. So clutch. Like, you almost don't want to shoot them at all. And an extra wound.
Yeah, if they were still 5-ups, then I wouldn't even think about it. But the fact they're 4-ups is so key to why I think they're amazing. Also, the fact of being core as well, that's a massive deal. And like we discussed on the original video, obviously, you've got so many options with them in terms of you can make them reroll, make them reroll their hit to Drago. You can use Foretelling of Locust. You can use Heroism's Favour. You can use all these different things that just make them so beneficial and make them so powerful in your list. And I definitely think 3 of them is the staple in my list at least. I think they're super powerful.
Yeah, they're just cool models. I know lots of people don't agree. I think they're cool. Awesome.
I think they look cool.
So it's a psychically attuned, Space Marine with the Emperor's own gene seed, who's like, I'm not deadly enough. And so he climbs into Terminator armor. And then he's like, you know what? Still not deadly enough. And he climbs into a Dread Knight. And it's very Power Loader from Aliens, which is an iconic scene in sci-fi. I love the Dread Knights.
Yeah, they just look cool. I've always been a fan of the Dread Knight models. It's actually why, originally when I wanted to do the Grey Knight army, it was I saw them and I was like, oh, this is quite cool. I love the Terminator models. The normal Marine models,
oh man,
I think they're really, really cool, but I could leave them if they weren't in the range. I wouldn't be too sad.
Terminators?
The Terminator models. No,
the regular
normal
Marines.
The normal Strike Marines. But the Terminators and stuff with that whole sort of knight helmet.
Yeah, man.
And all their iconography is just so cool.
Normal Space Marine Terminators are iconic, but I've never been a huge fan of that helmet with the it's almost stormtroopery with the wave on the cheeks, but the Grey Knight helmet with that it's just knightly enough, right? And it's very angular with those angular eyes and everything. Looks so great. I love that helmet.
Yeah. it looks awesome. Like it really fits the whole aesthetic as well, which is obviously then the knight aesthetic. And
Yeah,
they
absolutely.
look like they go from looking like normal Space Marines to me to like actual Knights of the Realm sort of thing, which is awesome again for an army like Grey Knight. So just so much flavor in their models.
Yeah, and then all of the, all the stuff on the pauldrons, and it's so, yeah.
You got
They
all the
have,
purity seals, and you got all their like their words engraved into their armor, and
yeah.
it's just sick.
Like I know folks are a little upset, and I am too. Like I wish they were taller. I wish they were more like Primaris scaled, true scale, I think they call it.
Yeah.
And folks do some really cool conversions with like assault intercessor legs. The problem is you get rid of all that like all those embellishments, right? Like now it's just plain, it's like plain greaves, just like solid flat metal, and there's no like, wording on it. There's no there's none of the Grey Knight books or the Inquisitor sigils and stuff. And I feel like it's cool that they're taller, but then you lose out on a little bit of that flavor. I've seen some folks make that stuff by hand out of green stuff. Ooh, that's too much for me. I like the hobby aspect of the game, but woo.
Yeah, it's the same for me. Like I'm more of a gamer. Like I enjoy painting. Building's not my thing. I enjoy painting, and I enjoy gaming, obviously. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think you hit the nail on the head there. Like obviously you can do Primaris conversions. I know someone actually in my local store. They've got a great Primaris converted Grey Knight army that looks awesome. But for me, it's the case of I love the heraldry. I also like how they are different. I like how they are unique. They're still in that firstborn aesthetic. I just wish that and even the cover art and stuff, as you can see on the codex, they look bigger on there. They don't look as they sort of do on the
Yeah.
in the models per se. They look a lot more scaled. But I think that's just another reason why I love them so much. Because they're different. They're not fitting that Primaris aesthetic. Like I love the Primaris Marines. Don't get me wrong. I think the models are amazing. I think they are finally, for me, they are what like a generic Space Marine should look like. They're a bit dynamic, and they're big and they're bulky, and they look like they're actually going to cause some trouble. Whereas with the Grey Knights, I do like that. I like the smaller look. I like their very heraldry themed look to them. And I think obviously, like you said though, I think the only other thing that would have been nice is obviously like where Castling Crow, the new Grey Knight, he is a bit bigger.
Well, it's because they like stuck him on corkboard. Essentially, it's like
Yeah,
some ruined rocks or something.
yeah. These are
Um,
like a chaosy temple sort of theme.
yeah. I've decided,
Yeah.
so my Castle and Crow is going to show up on Tuesday, and I've decided that's the model that I'm actually going to sit down and really like paint in like sections. I'm going to paint like his arms separate, and I'm going to do like a zenithal highlight. I'm going to do the whole 9 yards, like really take my time, because like right now I just built 20 interceptors. And I'm gonna rush paint those things, man. I'm not gonna spend like, 8 hours on each model. There's no way. I'm gonna be like 30 minutes, 45 minutes per model, and I'm gonna go to the next one. I'm not gonna,
Yeah,
I'll do like each color, right? So like all the gold, and then I'll do all the blue, and then, but yeah, 20 of
yeah,
them
I
is
know
too
that.
hard.
Yeah, I know that. Like when I was rush painting the Inceptors for the last tournament I went to, it literally was I sprayed them black, sprayed them silver, literally like made sure the silver was sort of bright, and then did like a bit of gold, red on the shoulder pads, and then like just like black their bolter casing, and then base them. And I was like, cool, right, they're tabletop ready, they're
Oh,
done. I'll come back and do them
ha-
properly later.
Have you tried Blood Angel's contrast red on the storm bolters? Like, it looks so good. Because
But
over like any metallic, so I use Grey Knight steel, and on some of mine I use an oil based Gosh, what is it? It's called liquid silver. It's amazing. It's a pain to work with though because it's oil based. But anyway, over any of those those metallic silvers, the contrast red keeps some of that sheen, and it makes the storm bolters like really pop. It looks really good.
Really
I
good.
think.
I've got so like the characters in the Dread Knights, I've got the red on for their bolter casing, but then for the normal guys, I've just done the black. So like another sort of thing that denotes like rank and stuff. So like again on the Terminators, I've got red on them as well, but just for like the normal strikes, the Inceptors, I've got black on them.
Yeah,
so, just like another thing I like.
This was my first army, so I've got a whole bunch of stuff that I bought from my friend, which are painted totally differently from the way that I like to paint them. And then I have things that I started with, and then I realized, oh, I could have done that, but then I haven't, so I've been keeping the original theme, even though it's less cool, because I don't want to repaint my whole army. You know?
It's a lot easier to just sort of, it's a lot easier just to sort of go like, oh, I'll just keep them as they are, sort of thing. Like I have that testament as well. Like I've got a few, like in a few of the armies I used to like have, I had a, I would just be like, okay, well, let me just touch them up slightly, and then they can just sit in my army.
Yeah.
No one will ever know.
No, no one's gonna look that close.
No.
Just base them in 3-color, right?
Yeah, I think if anyone looked too close at some of the stuff I've done, they'd probably be like, not that.
That was a choice he made.
That was a choice. I don't know. I can't comment on if it was a right or wrong one.
Exactly.
It's a choice all the same.
I can't remember if we talked about this in our last interview, but I want to discuss tides with you. Because the tides are such a, I know we just got them in Psychic Awakening, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of a new thing in the Grey Knight world, but the tides are now, they're our doctrines. They're, and they are so much more of a choice in 9th, I think, than they were in 8th. Because in 8th you had Fury, which was bad. I don't think I ever saw a bat rep where anyone used it. So everybody was basically just switching between Shadow and Convergence, and occasionally Escalation to make our little old baby smites have a little more oomph. But now we have full power smites, so who cares? But now, like, obviously, Shadows remains basically unchanged except for the 12-inch range of or beyond 12-inch. Then we have the new Celery Tide, Celerity. And I'm generally thinking of like how I would go through in a basic strategy. Obviously, every matchup would be slightly different. But turn 1, I would probably start in Tide of Shadows, unless I knew I could get off like a turn 1 charge, or I had a really good chance of getting off a turn 1 charge.
Yeah.
So I'd probably start in Tide of Shadows most games. Be dodgy that first turn, hide most of my stuff, maybe not be overly aggressive with Gate of Infinity, kind of set up for turn 2, Then change to Celery to guarantee those, or more or less guarantee those charges, especially off of the Interceptors, because they're so fast, right? So fast. And if you know you're not going to end up in melee turn 1, like if your game plan, like say you're fighting Death Guard, they're notoriously slow. You can actually use their move, shoot, move powers, get them way up the board, and set for turn 2. Get off those charges, and then switch to Tide of Convergence. And I don't see changing out of Tide of Convergence after turn 3. Like, Tide of Convergence is so good. We want to be in melee. And that's where all of our the Rapier's powers pops, and it just... is that how you generally use your tides?
It's very matchup dependent. So, for example, like Tide of Shadow, I'll only go into obviously if they've got a lot of shooting. If I go second, and it's normally the Tide I'm going into as well. But genuinely, like I like starting the game. If I go first, I like starting in Celerity just because it means that I can, like, for example, I'm normally deploying like. I measure out the deployment. I go, right, I'll put myself 9 inches away from this thing. So then if I just need to pop an advance roll, no matter what I roll, I'm going to get on it, sort of thing. Again, it's also mission dependent as well, terrain layouts. There's a lot of things that go into it. But yeah, I like to start in the Celerity Tide. And then, or equally, if I know I'm going to be doing a lot of things turn one, I'll be like, okay, let's start in Tide of Escalation so I can do multiple Brotherhood powers. And then I'll move into a Tide of Convergence. Like, normally when I'm in the Tide of Convergence, that's where it ends. There have been a few occasions where I've been in the Tide of Convergence and I've gone, right, I'm turn 4. I need to make a 9-inch charge. Right, I'll move into the Celerity Tide just because I'm not needing the punch as much as I did.
You can't go backwards anymore, unfortunately.
You can't warp shaping backwards.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So if you use Celerity in turn 1 and 2, you can't then switch to like Convergence and then go back to Celerity.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
that's all right then. But yeah, so like obviously there's that. So like I think it's good to sort of stay, like I think Celerity is one of the more useful ones, I think it's fair to say. Just for that, and so guaranteeing, like again, you're taking those failure points out. So for example, on your charges, it means that all you're needing to do is roll 1/6, which on 2 dice is should happen. If it doesn't, you can CP reroll it. Then on 4 dice, you can roll a 6. But I like using it more so for like I'll measure, like, so when I'll deploy, I'll be like, cool, I'll deploy 9 inches away from that objective, just so I know that no matter what I roll, I'm going to get on it. Equally, like we said with the gate stuff.
That's a good point.
Tide of Shadows, Tide of Shadows is good because it means obviously if you're in the shooting matchup, then you can go, right, well, I'm in cover, and if I'm in cover, I'm -1 to be hit as well as my +1 save, which is great. But it's at the same time, it's like, again, if you're not having the shooting matchup, I wouldn't really look at it that much. And then Tide of Escalation is really good if you're like, right, I'm about to set up for what is the power turn. So, I'll put all my rapier buffs on myself. I'll put every unit will try and put a rapier buff on itself. Sword Brethren is good as well or Sword Bearers, because you can go, right, I'll cast a spell for +1 to wound. Oh, look, I failed it. Cool. I'll cast it again. So it just it means you don't have to spend the CP reroll on that spell. So everyone is useful. The demon one is probably the only one that isn't great, but even then still has a place. If you're playing versus a mass horde of demons, the minus leadership and the reroll 1s to him wound's really good. But genuinely, I just think that the Tide of Convergence is probably the one that once you're in that, you're like, cool, this is the turn where things are going to start hurting. So
I am very glad to see that our anti-demon stuff moved off of data sheets and army-wide, right? Because that costs points. Whoever is determining what the points cost of these units are going to be are looking at everything that they can do, right? So and then they're like, okay, well, because they're anti-demon, that's 2 more points per model or whatever. I'm being completely arbitrary here, but this way they just said, no, you're still the anti-demon army, and you have those tools in the True Name Shard, the Demon Slayer Warlord trait, and the Tide, but they removed it from the basic data sheet. So if we want to go all in on demons, we still can, but we're not paying for it in every other matchup. Like, I play Deathwatch, right? And we have a lot of really cool anti-Xeno strats, but 24% of the meta is Space Marines. So it's well, those strats don't matter. And then reroll 1s to hit, or +1 to hit in combat against Xenos for our doctrine doesn't matter because they're not Xenos, they're Space Marines, right? So it's a it feels better when that stuff is a choice. Okay, we have anti-Xeno strats, now I just can't use those. That's fine. But when you're losing out on points and efficiencies, because you're not in your good matchup, right? It feels bad. So I like that they removed all that. Like, now it's a choice. If you want to go all in, you can. If you don't have to. I love that.
Yeah, it's good. Like, and also with the whole like the smite thing being one mortal wound, then 3 versus demons, that was a bit poo. And then the whole like having rules.
Oh man.
Like, it just like all it did is just go like, you are the demon hunting army, and here's a million rules to hunt demons, but you're penalised versus everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas which sucked. Whereas now, like you said, it makes more sense for it to be in a tide. It means that it's there if you want to use it, but you're not. But it's not something you're having to take a tax on. Whereas like having full smites, having full smites, and then like there's abilities that allowing you to reroll to wound anyway versus everything. Like, I'll have that any day of the week over when you play a demon. Then you get a bit more powered up, which like it barely ever happened. I don't think, like with my Grey Knights, I don't think I ever played demons or anything with a demon keyword. So
Yeah.
like it just sucked.
I play a lot against my buddy Steven, and he plays Death Guard, which pretty much just means his Plague Burst crawlers and what are those flesh mower things? I can't remember the name of them now. Yeah, it's like the blow drones and the Plague Burst crawlers, and that's it. It's like, great. If I get into melee with them, or if I get in smite range of them, I can mess them up, but still got to get there.
That's the thing. Like, it's all about like you have to get there, and like the mortal wounds, like being 12 inches. Obviously, you had to take a proper captain, which doubled the range of it, while within 6 of him. So there were things that you got, but ultimately it didn't make a blind bit of difference, really. So whereas now, like having the full smites and then the demon stuff being locked into a tide, so again, like you can use it if you want, but it's not something that you're having to like feel like you're taking a points tax for, is really nice.
Yeah. Are there any more questions for chat? I think we're getting close to your hard stop time, right, Jake?
Yeah, as long as I gotta be gone at, or at least off here by 4:30 at the latest, because then it gives me time just to get ready and get out of the house.
So we got about 15 to 20 minutes before we have to end the stream. So if anybody has any other questions, now is the time. And before I forget, you mentioned something really great, and this just like goes ahead and it emphasizes again the difference between our experience levels, right? Because I look at Tide of Celerity, and I see, it's the Charge Tide, right? Like, everybody has the like names for things, like the Tide of Convergence is now the Melee Tide, right? Everybody doesn't really think about the fact that it adds 6 inches of range to all your your ranged psi weapons. But you said, when I'm deploying, I'm going to be right up on the line if I know I'm going to go first, right? You've got that redeployment, because who's not going to spend 30 points on that? That's amazing, right? So you got all your your strike marines that are going to go grab those 2 front objectives. They're on the line. You've already pre-measured. You're like, I know they can move 6. I need them to move 3 to toe in. So I'm just going to start in celerity. And you're using it in that instance as the advance tide.
Yeah.
But I see, it increases my advance. Who cares? Because that's just my experience level, where I'm like, I want to get those charges off. So I'm interested in this for charging. But that's a great point that you brought up. So you can actually be like, nope, now it is a guaranteed at least 9-inch movement. And I can be on those objectives turn 2. I know I can. And that's a thing that I was listening to a podcast months ago. I forgot which one now. But they were specifically speaking about Lawrence from Tabletop Tactics.
Yeah.
And how, if you watch him play, or any really good player play, yes, this is a game of chance. There are dice involved. There is probability involved in everything that you do. but really high-end players will be doing everything that they can to mitigate as much of that probability as possible, right?
Yeah.
So, like, don't take that, chancy 11-inch charge, be dodgy, wait a turn, and make it a 3-inch charge, because you pretty much cannot fail that, right?
Yeah.
Or, you can try to go for a wombo combo 11-inch charge, and then you're probably gonna fail it, right? Like,
yeah, it's about removing failure points, as we call it. So, for example, like if I'm deploying 9 inches away from an objective, or I've deployed and the objective is 9 inches away, then it means that there's a 66% chance I'm going to get it. But equally, that means there's a 33% chance I'm not going to get
exactly.
it.
And then sorry.
No, you go.
I was just gonna say, and in that example, if you have 2 units that have to make 3-inch advances, now it's 2 66% rolls, which is upping your failure rate substantially. It's doubling it because now it's 2 units and not 1, right?
Yeah.
So like that's a fantastic point.
Yeah, and as I said, it's just about removing those failure points. So, for example, turn 1, I'm like, okay, I don't really need to be in the Tide of Shadow because either, I've made sure I've deployed out of his range, or equally, I'm behind
Obscuring
cover, obscuring terrain. That's the one, and all these different things. So at least it means that, okay, well, I can afford to go into this Tide, so I can go right. I'm on that objective, or equally, I'm like, right, I need a move block here. At least I'm going to get a 9. I'll roll it. Okay, I rolled a 2. At least that's still a 9. Or equally, I rolled a 4. That's good. At least I get a 10. So so it's all about that. And then, as I said, but then it just has that added bonus of, in the charge phase, when I gauge a charge, if there's a 9-inch charge, I'm going to need a 6. But it also means that your minimum charge is ever going to be a 6.
Mm-hmm.
So
sure does.
That's also amazing for those situations of, well, you could, if you have a super important charge and you roll a 4 and then CP it and you roll worse or the same, I know that's a slim chance, but it's still something that sometimes in a very high end, if you're on the top table and both your opponents are as good, equal skill level with equal good armies, that could be something that could cost you the game.
Yeah.
So it's about having that, and it's the same as, like you said, on the Tide of Convergence, obviously, so the Tide of Convergence, obviously, with the mortal wound thing, that's obviously what a lot of people know it as.
Mm-hmm.
But I also use it of, well, if I move into the Tide of Convergence, it means my Dread Knights can sit further back, and I don't have to worry as much with them.
Yep.
Or equally that so there's, I think it's about looking at every Tide and not just looking at one rule. It's about looking at every rule you get and go, right, how much of a benefit is this? And and that's why I really, really like the Tide of Celerity. Like that's why it's one of my personal favorites.
Yeah. Man, it's just that. Well, like you said, the difference in our skill levels, right? And I'm still learning the game, and there are like moments where I have an epitome while I'm watching a bat rep, and I'm like, oh, I see what they're doing. They're gonna move block in like that little alley or whatever, or and I feel, and then the next turn, it's like, oh, great job move move blocking me, right? Like their opponent might say that, and it feels good when you have those moments of clarity where you're like, oh, okay, I see what they're trying to do. Like that obviously means that I'm learning, and I love that, like that feeling that like, haha, that when the light bulb clicks on, right? Like I watched that. Oh, sorry.
So I was just going to say, it's like we said when we were talking last time about, obviously, like about keeping things a secret or whatever, and I just don't believe in that sort of side of it. As I said, I'm very much someone of, I like talking to people, and I like if we're going to learn, we can learn together. And equally, like if you see something that I do or something I say, and then you're like, oh wow, that's amazing, and then let's say like you went in your game tonight and you played that versus your friend, and then your friend learns that, and then it's that constant moving thing. And that's what I love. That's the reason I do all this, is for those moments there. So
yeah, for sure. And I mean, also cracking jokes with your friends and having a few drinks and stuff. I was gonna say, I actually noticed that a lot I watched that bat rep on Vanguard Tactics, which, by the way, if you guys haven't checked out Jake's channel yet, he is one of the streamers for Vanguard Tactics, which is a coaching stream and company over in the UK, and you should totally check it out. It's very high production value with very good players, and I love how they talk things through, right? Like, that is, as a newer player, as somebody who's striving to learn, you know, seeing the explanations and not just they move but not why is huge, and they do a lot of that. But what I noticed, I watched that bat rep of Death Guard versus the Sisters, and there was a very terrain heavy map, huge. Like, there were pretty much only like 3 lanes of fire, and then the outside edges, and that was about it. But the way that they were moving, the way that they were like keeping models alive, right? Like, or, you know, Steve got very lucky and like kept one Repentia alive, which move blocked Morty, and it was just like amazing. And they're talking through all of this, and not only are they giving each other crap, which I think is a pivotal part of the game, like they were explaining exactly what they're doing, and why. And it was just like, I've seen that in every stream you guys throw out, and it's just like A class, great stuff. So
Thank you. That does mean the world. Like, as I said, you know, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes in terms of, you know, the team we've got at the moment of myself, Stephen, Liam from the Deployment Zone TV, Eddie and Michael as well. Michael, who's just joined the fray of us, who was on the Death Guard Sisters stream. I don't know how often he'll be on, but you know, he was on that and smashed it. So hopefully he'll appear a bit more. And obviously all the other people, they don't even appear on the stream. They either like Ben, Jack, and Aaron, Mark, and all these different people.
Wow, that's a big crew, man.
Yeah, it's extremely humbling, and you know, that's the goal we always go for when we go into the games is you know, like, obviously, to give a bit of context, like, obviously, you know, I work my 9 till 5 job, and then I go straight from my job to the train station, get a 20-minute train to the studio, go to the studio, you know, like, so I haven't, like, either I haven't eaten or done anything like that, and tired, like all the other guys as well, you know, we all work beforehand, go there, and then we just have a great laugh. And I think you know, there are moments where people will look at it and go, oh, they don't look like they're having fun or whatever, you know, but actually, in actual fact, it's more like I'm so, like, either I'm so tired that then, like, I'm just enthralled and I love it, or it's, you know, like, you just are so enthralled and having fun that you just forget about all of that. And you know, it's amazing, but it's very humbling for you to say that, so thank you so much. And I said, I'm extremely as I said in the last video, and you know, like how I'm saying now, I'm extremely fortunate and extremely humbled to have the people I do around me, to meet the people meet the people I have met, and to be in the community I am. And it all just comes through, you know, just like trying your best at the end of the day. And I think, you know, like I said originally as well, obviously, I think what you're doing here on this channel is amazing, and I think that, you know, the production value that you have as well for a channel that is, you know, like, if you look at the channels relative to yourself, then I think your production value is way up there. And
thank you.
I think the content you're producing in terms of these sitting and talks and stuff, like, I love it. I love chatting and having fun. And you know, and I think it's a testament to when you watch the videos and stuff and you see the people actually genuinely enjoying themselves as well. It's not just like those interviews of like, yes, I did this cause, and you know, all that sort of stuff. Like, it's just a chat, and I think, as I said, I think that's a testament to yourself, and I think that, you know, I can't wait to see, you know, where your channel goes from here, really, and I think it'll be awesome.
Well, thank you. That's very high praise, and I'm like, feels good. This whole thing started because, like, you know, you'd hear a podcast and they have a winner of some GT on, and they only talk for like 12 minutes and then they're done, right? Because the whole podcast has to be like 45 minutes long, and so they only leave like a 15-minute interview. The first 3 minutes of that is like joking around, which is fine, but it's just like it always left me wanting more. Like, I want to have a 20-minute conversation about why you picked aggressors. Like, what are they doing in your list? What are they doing that I'm not seeing? Oh, okay. And then when they're an extremely experienced player, they can actually explain that all to you. And they can explain, like, well, I tried it with this unit type, and I tried it with this. But this one, it's like what really, was the bee's knees and, like, actually did what I needed, right? And so I have these 2.5 hour long chats, which I think people are like, oh, 2.5 hour long YouTube video, that's awful. But then it's also in bite-sized pieces. You can listen to 20 minutes of on your train ride, and then you can listen to 20 minutes on your train ride home. So
it's what's good with it. It's an interview, and I think like you said, like I was the exact same. When I'd listen to a podcast, and I hear this, a gentleman, whoever it is, or person, and they've won they've done well at an event, and they're talking about it, and then like you said, it's just like you feel like you're just left wanting more. Whereas I think in the long sort of sit and talk interview styles, like it obviously for a lot of people, it's like, oh, 2.5 hour long, like you said. But equally, if you think like, if we use our channel as an example, our battle reports on average are like 2.5 to 3 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So if you think you can sit through a battle report, you can easily put your headphones on while you're painting and listen to an interview.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. And that's why this setup is the way that it is. Yeah. So like, yes, I have visual elements, but they're not like absolutely required, right? So you can throw it on in your car or whatever.
Yeah, what it's good is that you can have it on the screen and you can look at it and you go, for example, if you're just sat down, painting, and you look up and you see like, oh, there's the list, you go, okay, well, I'll just quickly pay attention to this while you're scrolling through it. But then, but because you talk about it anyway, and you're talking about each step and stuff, that's really, really good. And obviously, like, I had a look at the video that we did, obviously, and like, I liked how the little time stamps in the description about like, you had like, obviously, like, the event, the intro, why did you do this, all these different things, and that's really interesting as well. Our event was when I played Steve.
We lost you again. So you said that was really interesting, and then something about Steve, and it was all jumping.
Oh yeah, so I was just saying that so a lot of the talking point of the event that I attended was, obviously, I did play Steve. So a lot of people, obviously, I know, were quite interested in that game. So obviously, where you look at timestamp, you go, right, okay, game 4 was versus Steve, right, click that, cool. Yep. I can just that's the bit I can listen to. Or equally, if you're in the car and you're like you said, you're on the train and you go to work, and then you listen to 20 minutes, then for some reason, I don't know, like sometimes YouTube does, it won't leave you from where you left off or anything like that. You go, right, well, they're like, I remember they were talking about the first game, so I'll click the first game and go, right, okay, it was about here, and I'll just start from there again. And it's great. Like, it's refreshing. It's different, and that's what I think that's what the content side of things needs, is just so everything's a bit different, so then everybody has different reasons to go to different places. So yeah.
Well, I'm not gonna stop anytime soon, so you're gonna see a lot more content from me. Our streaming setup, our streaming setup for Bat Reps is getting better. Like I said, off screen, Vanguard Tactics and Tabletop Titans are kind of what I look at, what I as oh man, now my words are totally failing me. As role models. There we go. Of like the quality that I want. So thank you very much for all your time. Thank you very much for all of your kind words, and thank you for all of your wisdom. I know you gotta go. It's also 2.5 hours in now. Which shot through.
Yeah, well, yeah, it does. It didn't feel like that at all, to be honest. If I thought we'd only been here an hour until I checked the until I checked the clock behind me. But I just want to say this as well. Again, thank you so much. And again,
Absolutely.
keep doing what you're doing. I think there's a you've got a really good community in that Grey Knight Discord where I'm not gonna lie, I do have my Discord muted a lot just because of if I didn't, my phone would never stop rumbling.
Yep.
Like any good group chat, as it were.
I feel you.
So I do pop my head in there occasionally, and all I do see is some extremely positive people. And I think that again, stick with that crowd, and you're on your way to a winner there, my friend. But yeah, but again, thank you so much for having me. It's absolute honor as always.
Thank you. And I do actually want to say that yesterday I was actually browsing BCP to see if there are any tournaments in my area because I'm gonna go try it out. So
Nice.
I've never been to one. Might as well go to one.
You know what to do. You know what to do. You've spoken to a lot of very, very good people and myself
Nice.
about events. So so you'll be able to, I think you'll do all good there. And as I said, like I've said to you before, if you ever need to shoot a list by me, my inbox is always open. So.
All right. Thank you very, very much, Jake. And I'm sure we'll be in touch a lot. So
Yeah.
I will.
Yeah. You know
talk.
me.
I'll talk to you later.
Yep.
Good luck with your haircut. John
Thank
Drago also is upset that you would dare touch the beard.
It just gets annoying. Like, not gonna lie.
Aw, I've had mine for so long.
Oh no, I like it, but just with my work and stuff, you have to wear a lot, like wearing the mask and stuff. It
No,
get a bit aggravating. So
gotcha.
but yeah, don't worry. I'm going there, having a bit of a party, getting my hair cut, and then just having a good chill evening before the next sort of few weeks of tournament prep. So
Very
yeah.
cool. Well, man, hey, good luck on those tournaments, and I'll probably have you back on. So.
Yeah, well, thank you very much again, and all the best.
Yep. Later, dude. And thank you to all of our viewers and listeners as well for all their questions. And this isn't going to be the last one of these that I live stream. So.